Good morning. Welcome to our Into webinar series hosted by the Independent Schools Show. And we're joined today by Knight Frank, who'll be offering excellent advice on properties. Today is Into the Cotswolds, and we are delighted to be joined by 5 schools in the area, namely Kitebrook, Dean Close, Kingham Hill, Stonor and Royal High School, Bath. I'm Will Petty, co-director at Bonas MacFarlane and the Independent Schools Show. And at Bonas MacFarlane, I specialise in advising and helping families from all over Britain and all over the world gain access to our fabulous independent schools across the UK. Today, we've got quite a different format for you, just trying to keep things jolly while we're all getting towards the end of lockdown, hopefully, fingers crossed. The last time I saw you all, we were told that something might happen around the 8th of March, and now we've got the 21st of June, so even more good news, and I'm expecting lots more of activity from the parents watching today, because your children are no longer at home. Congratulations, by the way. I can see that some of you are all already looking instantly happier. So we're going to be joined with these schools, with some of their parents who've gone through this relocation, and asking them the sort of key questions that they asked themselves as they chose their school, the area, the property. We're going to go to each school and have a little mini interview with their parents. And also at the end, Charlie Taylor, the head of the Bath office, Knight Frank, will be speaking to you all about the property piece after we've spoken to the schools. At the end, we'll have a question and answer session. If you're looking at your screen at the bottom of your Zoom, you should see a Q&A icon. Please put your questions in there. Some of you have submitted some already. We'll do our best to get through them, as many of them as possible, but if not, please put them into the box and someone will get back to you. I will give you some more updates as we go through, but all of the information on our schools here today will be on our website, as will a recording of this after it's finished, in case you need to head off. It'll be out on the site later today, and we'll drop you an email about that. So we've got a very packed schedule, a lot to get on with, so we won't hang on any longer. We're going to go first to Kitebrook, where Susan McLean, the head mistress, is joined by Gillian Fox. So over to you, Kitebrook. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be speaking today. As a recently named country prep school in the new edition of the Week Independent Schools Guide, I think Kitebrook epitomizes what it is to be an academically strong school, but coupled with that beautiful Cotswold surroundings that are perfectly matched to childhood. As you enter our large, sort of imposing main building, we have a small sign that says, "Children have only one childhood." And so we believe making that very memorable for our pupils. In the country, we can achieve high academic standards, but we feel, without that sacrificing of childhood. It's a calmer approach in the classroom, and wellies at playtime, outside, no matter what the weather might be. So in our Cotswold school, we like to think that there's balance. Small class sizes where children are encouraged to focus and work hard, but also giving children enough time to explore the outdoors. They like to build dens, they barter with slate, they climb trees. We enjoy even our prayers, which is our Kitebrook assemblies, against a backdrop of sheep and cattle. So our unique baccalaureate program, if we're looking at the academic part of Kitebrook, our baccalaureate program, which is quite unique in upper school, affords our children the opportunity to monitor their own progress, but also assess themselves. We assess them as well in areas of both the curriculum and skills. So our pupils will cover a full syllabus of Common Entrance, but alongside this, we also make sure that their skills, their growth mindset skills, are also assessed, and that information is given back to parents. So areas like leadership, independence, collaboration, all fit into this. We feel that this gives a far better picture of your child or any child to their future schools as well. We can talk about a child in more depth with their next school. So if they still have perhaps that area of growth that they need to demonstrate in a particular subject area, we can offset that with their greatest strength of character. I love nothing more than to write a head's report that talks about a child who demonstrates self-reflection or taking a risk. I think it builds that profile of the holistic child and pupil. And not to mention also with those skills, we are preparing them for attributes that they will definitely use in the future. I hope that gives you a little bit of a glimpse into Kitebrook and our offering, but I know perhaps it would be the right time to introduce you to one of our parents, Mrs. Gillian Fox, who made that transition not so long ago to our great country prep school. So she will tell you exactly how it is to experience Kitebrook as a mom within the school. Gillian?
Thanks, Susan. Thank you very much. And hi, everybody. So despite my accent, I lived in London for 20 years. So they let me in when I moved from Scotland. And we had an amazing 20 years in Southwest London. We lived in Richmond and we moved to the Cotswolds just over 18 months ago. And I have to say, and I'll come on and talk a little bit more, Susan and her team have just massively, massively helped us through that transition. So I think, you know, one of the biggest things for us was the school move for the children. My children are now 12 and 9. They're both very different, as Susan knows. And, you know, we could not have asked for more in terms of what was the most stressful part of the move for me, which was making sure that the children were happy and settled in their new school. So I think it's important for me to say that we were very happy with the schools in London. They were both in single sex schools in Richmond. We were very, very happy with them, and we did not move because we were not happy with the schools. And that, of course, then made the new school incredibly, incredibly important for us. And we believe that we found in Kitebrook a school that espouses many of the values that their old schools did in London. We moved for lifestyle reasons. We both work. We wanted to get away from the intensity of London. We loved it for 20 years, but we were ready to do something different. And we wanted to give our children a more relaxed, freer upbringing. And I absolutely feel kind of nearly 2 years on that we've achieved this. It's been a fantastic move for us. I've talked about the biggest part of the move being school. It absolutely has been, because bizarrely, when we actually moved, and we live in a village called Kingham, I worked out very quickly that my commute was in actual fact only 15 to 20 minutes longer from Kingham train station than it had been from Richmond into the city. So that's quite an interesting thing for people to think about. But in some ways that meant that what felt like a massive move, and this is obviously pre-COVID, became not so big a move for us, but the school element was the biggest part. So I've talked about, you know, Susan and the Kitebrook team genuinely went above and beyond. I will be forever grateful for what they did in that transition for us. A very, very personal service. And I think that's one of the things that I would want to, you know, to say about Kitebrook, that we had good relationships with our schools in London. We're in fact still in touch with the heads and many of the others in there. But at Kitebrook, there's just a feel of it being much, much more personal. And the children, I feel that, my husband feels that, and the children feel that. I think I'm conscious of time, so I think there's a couple of key points that I just want to pull out. One is that for us, I have two very different children. One's probably more academic than the other. One's much more into the arts and sciences. Co-ed has worked much better for us. They were in single sex schools in London. Co-ed works for us and works well. And I also think Kitebrook has absolutely nurtured both of my very, very different children. And I think that's a real differentiator. I'm not sure I felt that, obviously slightly different because they were single sex schools in London, but I'm not sure I felt that as much as I do at Kitebrook. Susan's touched on it, but space. I mean, look behind Susan. The bit of grass that you can see behind Susan is one of the playgrounds that the children play in. I drive into the driveway. You can see it on their website. I know many of the other schools on here have amazing grounds as well, but the grounds and the space are just incredible. They've got fields. There's a tree house. I think they've got, what are these walking plank things they talk about, Susan? My daughter comes back every day and just raves to me about, you know, all the free space that she's got outside. And so possibly like many of you in London, our schools in London used to have to ferry them to very beautiful locations for PE So that was about 45 minutes at 10 hour out the day. You don't have that here. The doors open in the amazing buildings in Kitebrook, and out they go and they run with wellies. So the one thing I keep getting wrong is they have to have their wellies, because despite the weather, they are out there. But I actually love the fact that they come back covered in mud, happy as Larry, and had amazing time outside. So space is a biggie, and definitely talk about that in terms of the school, but obviously I would talk about that in terms of the houses and the space that you can buy. You will, an obvious thing to say, you will just get more space generally up here than in London. Two final points. So one is culture. I'm very, very focused on culture. I feel like we absolutely got it right with Kitebrook, and Susan, you talked about it, and we didn't rehearse what we were both going to say. But there's something about it's much more nurturing than the London schools were. And again, we weren't unhappy with the London schools, we were happy with them. But both my children will talk about Kitebrook feeling kinder than their old schools, and also their academics are holding. So it's not kindness where I feel like their academics have slipped. And in actual fact, with one of them, they're doing even better, I suspect, because they are being so nurtured. So I think that's really important, that if you want that balance of not what I would call a hothouse school, but equally ensuring the academics are there, but doing that in a kind and supportive and nurturing way, we absolutely feel that we've got that with Kitebrook. And my final point is flexibility. So 2 points on that. We're both working parents. We get much more flexibility from Kitebrook than we did in the London schools. The standard day for both my children is 8 to 5. That's because there are amazing clubs 4 till 5. They can do late boarding till 7:30 if they want in the evenings. And actually, in fact, one of my children's doing it tonight, and they can board as well. So my son's in year 8, he's going on to a senior school, St Edward's in Oxford in September. And helping him do a couple of nights boarding is helping him get ready when he moves on to do full weekly boarding. And that's been amazing, and they enjoy it, and it helps us both from a working parent's perspective to have much more support than we would have done. And I think my final point, I've touched on it, sorry Willie, just they're very different children. And Kitebrook has absolutely supported both of those very types of children. So very happy, all very positive, and happy to help with any questions. Sorry for running over.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Gillian. That is absolutely wonderful. Obviously hearing there, we heard a little bit about some of the big topics for everybody, and perhaps what some London parents don't think about too much, which is in London, you're very geared towards thinking, well, there are very few varieties of school. It's quite pushy. It's very academic because of the lack of space. The one thing that I think is easier is to put two quite different children in the same school. Much harder to do in London in the countryside because of the space, the facilities, the co-curricular program, particularly at schools that offer boarding. You're just going to find a wider range of child being catered for, which if you've got more than one, could be a really important factor in choosing your school. Although don't forget, if they are so different, they need different schools. There are locations where you can choose from. The countryside's not all the outback, and there's plenty of activity and a really good density of schools, particularly in the Cotswolds. Cracking straight on, we are shooting across the county to Dean Close School, where we're joined by Warden Emma Taylor of the Dean Close Foundation, and Emma's been joined by a parent, Richard Hildick Smith, and hopefully we can go over to you live. I think we're going to need some cameras on, and you need to switch off mute. Emma, are you hearing me?
Yes, are you hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear. I'll leave you to it. Welcome, Emma. Thank you.
Lovely, excellent. Morning, and morning, Richard and Steph, in fact, both joining us. Thank you very much. And very impressive that you've managed to do so with a months-old baby at home, as well as an older toddler. Just a few words from me about Dean Close to set the scene, and then I really want Richard and Steph to do most of the talking, because I think what's really interesting for parents is to hear about the experience of other parents. So Dean Close is actually a group of schools, and it's interesting that William was just talking about the benefits of being able to bring more than one child and have them catered for in one environment, if that's what parents choose. So we have 4 schools and 5 day nurseries. We're based, the schools are based in Cheltenham, on the west side of Cheltenham. So in terms of the Cotswolds, we have access to Cheltenham town, which as children get older, I think is particularly nice. There's lots to do in town, but also we are located on the biggest piece of contiguous green space in Cheltenham itself. So the grounds and the facilities in the area is really really green, and that kind of healthy outdoor living aspect is part of what we concentrate on as well. We are academically selective, but not overly so. The emphasis at Dean Close is on our values. The overarching aim for every child at every age is flourishing, that they should achieve their very best and be their best self. And we have 3 other values: love, courage, and contribution, that we emphasize right from the very youngest age up until they are school leavers. So our values emphasize not just doing well yourself, achieving your own potential, but also being someone who gives back in the local community to friends in school when they're little, and then as they get older, really thinking about making a difference in the world, making an impact on the world that they choose to join. There's lots more I could say, but I think it would be much better, given the shortage of time, to turn to Richard and Steph now, and just have a bit of a conversation, really. Richard and Steph, tell us about your original association with Dean Close, and how you came to know about us.
Yes, so I suppose we're maybe slightly different from others, that Steph and I were both at Dean Close, where we met 15 or something, more than that. So we were both at school. Again, we were quite different. I was a boarder, Steph was a day pupil, having her parents had moved from London to move to the Dean Close Junior School. So we were at school together. We currently have a 2-month-old and who's at home, and a 2-year-old who's currently at the Little Trees Nursery. So one of those nurseries in Cheltenham that's part of the Dean Close Foundation. So we, having left Dean Close, we moved around the country and the world, and we were in London for about 7 years, in Wimbledon. And I think our big thing was, almost as soon as we had Harry, our child who's now 2, we knew that there was nothing more that we wanted than to move out of Wimbledon, which was a lovely area. I know Gillian was talking about Richmond, very similar. There are lots of opportunities there, but we almost couldn't wait to not use it as an excuse to get back out into the Cotswolds, but we really wanted Harry and now Holly to start their journey in an environment like Cheltenham, and really happy that they can start that process off at the Little Trees Nursery and hopefully feed through the Dean Close foundations and schools through the junior school and the senior school. So I suppose we're slightly biased, but we both absolutely loved it. Obviously being quite different, and I think Harry and Holly will be quite different. But yeah, we're so happy that they can start that journey and hopefully follow it through in a place like the Dean Close Foundation.
Would you say a little bit, Richard and Steph as well, about what you perceive as being special for you? Because you work. I knew you both as a teacher when you were at school. I won't tell too many tales out of school about you, the two of you. You can tell it your own way. But it would be really interesting to hear what you felt it gave you, what was good about it, and maybe why that led you to choose to move back to the area and choose this for your children rather than London education.
I think the diversity of it as well. You know, Rich mentioned, but we're both very different. I was much more into the arts. He was very sporty, and it's sort of catered to, you know, whoever and whatever your skill set was, and really developed us in that way. I think moving, you know, our draw to move back out was to give, I'm sure there are schools in London that could do that, but it was a space issue. It was having both grown up in the countryside and in Cheltenham itself, and just having that diversity really, and the space to grow really.
I think my twin sister was also with me at Dean Close, and she was very different to me, and my elder sister was hugely into music. So we almost had, between the 4 of us, we had very, very different strengths. And I think that Dean Close was able to nurture all of those, you know, to the best of, I think, as Emma was saying, just flourishing to be the best that people can be, which I think was just an amazing environment to be in.
Richard, say a bit more about what you went on to do, and you know, you've had lots of options, both of you, about what you could do next.
Yeah, so I did quite a lot of sport, but I did engineering, and it's one of the things that I think Dean Close is fantastic in, and is being more so the STEM subjects. So I'm a huge advocate of the science, technology, engineering, and maths, and I'm looking to get more involved back with the school to try and help that link with the STEM subjects and industry, because I think it's an area where quite often it's very difficult for children that are interested in physics and maths, etc., to then link that with the world outside. So I went into engineering, into oil and gas. Subsequently, I'm now in renewable energy, the sector. So I think for me, I've always been involved in engineering, and I think that's something that is going to be more and more important going forwards. And I think there's an awful lot of young people out there, especially young females, that are just looking for that kind of link between really enjoying their physics and their maths, and then trying to understand, what does that mean I can do in the outside world? Because they're not jobs that are called physics or maths. So I think quite often that's a link that students struggle to make, and obviously means that they get sucked into other things. So I think one thing that Dean Close was good at with me, and I think is a real area of focus and a real area of positivity, is that STEM area, which, say for me, less so for you were more into history of art, but I think that's a huge part of it.
William, do you want to interrupt? I was just going to finish by saying that I think, thank you, Richard, and Richard's been one of those parents, and we have a wide network of them, who's come back on board or come on board to help us with our industry links and giving opportunities for our pupils as they get older to have lots of contact with the business world and with possible future careers. And I think this is a vital part of development in senior schools, particularly over the coming years.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Emma, Dean Close, and of course, Mr. and Mrs. Hildick Smith. That was wonderful. Just the kind of insight I know that everyone's really interested in and needs, and great to hear and see two former students of the school as well. So it's really showing you there, everyone watching, that professional couple moved into London to do what they had to do to begin with, and then back to Dean Close, and shows you just the longevity of the school and the consistency in keeping that ethos. And away from London, I'd argue that you do find that a little more. There's a little more longevity and consistency with the styles of the schools, just because I suppose there are less pressures out in the countryside, perhaps away from the sort of mass populations. So I think you often feel like it's a more balanced experience, but I wouldn't sort of put my name to that, just in case that upset the London schools. Hopefully none of them are watching. Anyway, cracking straight on, we are now heading over to one of my favourites, Kingham Hill, where I've visited lots and lots over the years. And Nick Stewart, the headmaster, is joining us, and he'll be joined by Debbie Marshall, a parent who relocated. This is slightly different. It should be very interesting for lots of you. So relocated from Dubai with her two children and joined the school last year. And now Debbie also works at the school. So we're going to have effectively two members of staff, one of whom's a hybrid and a parent. Nick, over to you.
Great, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be talking to you. So talking about the lifestyle changes, my wife and I moved out from Oxford. I was chaplain at Magdalen College School 14 years ago. We moved out 14 years ago to the Cotswolds. What were the big lifestyle challenges for us? We couldn't fall out of the house and get a pint of milk. If we were short. If you wanted to go to a restaurant, you had to get in your car, I guess. But the benefits thoroughly outweighed that and continue to outweigh that. It's been a wonderful move for us personally. As far as the school's concerned, we're a senior school, 11 to 18. We're boys and girls. We have boarding and day. Interesting, Kitebrook we know well is a mile or so down the road, but talking about the importance of childhood. So for our children and for the pupils at the school, it's a safe, nurturing place where they can experience a proper childhood in 100 acres of beautiful prime Cotswold countryside. We have quite a strict no phones policy during the school day. So we want children to be outside enjoying that. We have an unofficial school motto, which is work hard, play hard, serve well. It's a safe and idyllic campus. We have a school farm, so as well as the rolling playing fields, it's helpful for pupils to see that side of life, pigs, sheep, goats. We have alpacas, actually, which keep the foxes away from the chickens. I never knew that before I moved out. We are very strong academically. We are non-selective, but over half of grades at public exam would be A star or A here. So we're very confident that we do a great job for any pupil who comes to us. In terms of the worries that might be in your mind, maybe in terms of moving out to the Cotswolds, maybe not being as connected as you once were, we found quite the opposite, actually. somebody's already mentioned, Kingham Station, the train station here is just over an hour away from Paddington. I go up to London quite a lot, either to meetings or to my club. We go into Oxford on Sundays, we go to church in Oxford and then go to a restaurant, one of the ones we used to walk to. In terms of theatre, we both love, we love the theatre, and the school loves the theatre in Stratford. Stratford is half an hour up the road. So it's really the best of all worlds from our point of view. Saturdays, if I'm not on duty here at school, I'm generally transporting children to games of sport or football around the county, or the motorsport team here, talking about STEM. I'm a mad aerospace engineer, and we run a school motorsport team. So that is part of a Saturday often, but if we've got time during holidays or on weekends, you can go rambling through acres and acres of lovely English countryside, bridle ways, pathways. Dalesford Organic is on the doorstep, so that's a nice place to stop for a coffee if you're on a Saturday walk. I won't talk too long. As has already been said, Debbie Marshall came to us as a parent. We liked her so much we employed her, and she's made a similar move. So I'll just let her talk about her experience of relocating here.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, for me, it's been quite a journey. I guess probably relocated a little bit further than many people. I lived in Dubai for 14 years, I think it was. Both my children, who are now 15 and 13, were born over there. And I think it's more a case for me. I had anywhere in the country that I could have gone to, and we viewed many schools through our journey of about 9 months to 12 months looking. I think what brought us here was what I wanted to sort of transition between a very cosmopolitan, we'd lived in London before moving out to Dubai, very cosmopolitan life, everything's on your doorstep, everything's, glitzy and everything you read in the press, to something that gave the children some probably quite different values, but instilling still a lifestyle that they wanted to embrace. And Kingham really offered, and it's been said by a couple of the parents already, in terms of very different children. And Nick will, wholeheartedly agree, is that my son and my daughter are totally different. And out of all the schools we saw, Kingham was actually, and genuinely hand on heart, the top school for both the children. The farm, the academics, the CCF, the outward sort of like look, the pastoral care for me as a parent, or their parent. The main thing for me was the transition between the lifestyle that we had and that they'd grown up knowing, and the sunshine, back to what is reality, and we always saw ourselves moving back to at some point. So really that was the thing that made the support of coming back. The children both have their tutors, they have house parents, but it's not just about that. They have all their teachers plus our fantastic sort of SEND department, and everyone is willing to, the sports coaches have a chat with the children about how they're feeling, particularly this last kind of sort of 9-12 months, having moved from a completely different country to them being stuck at home for some of that time and away from their friends. The pastoral care for me as their mom has been second to none. We didn't move and we didn't buy straight away. We decided to get to know the area. So we ended up living very close to the school, and bought into a village just outside, sort of 10 minutes away. And one of the things I love is the fact that children have their independence. They can really grow it within the countryside. As Nick said, we're so close to train stations that as they're now approaching those teenage years and those latter teenage years, that they're now moving into sort of getting on the train and going out with their friends and doing stuff more independently. And I want the safety and security I had in Dubai, which was, so safe, to translate to here. And that has been huge. And I think for us, it was about lifestyle and, happiness. And, genuinely you worry about how this affects, one of the other parents has said, going to affect your children, because you're not unhappy with where you are. You're just looking for something slightly different. And I genuinely can't say that it could have worked any better. And so much so that when I moved back, I ended up helping out the school as registrar, and now more permanently on the staff as well. So that's really my experience.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Debbie and Nick, and great to hear from Kingham Hill. And as you've heard, there's some very exciting things in the Cotswolds, not least of which is the Daylesford Empire, who maybe have more things to offer there than they do in their ever-expanding London outfit. Just thinking about this, I mean, in the words of the great rapper LL Cool J, moving out to the countryside is not something like a phenomenon. It's been going on for a very long time. It's a well-trodden path, particularly by British parents. But in the COVID era, I think a lot more families are feeling freer to move sooner. So it's a great time to be exploring this option. And all of those of you watching, don't worry about your timings. Get in touch with these schools, do your homework, but speak to the schools, get the answers directly from them or to fabulous people like us, to make sure that you're making the most informed choices. So without further ado, we are going to head over to a unique school in that not only can your children board, but so can your horse, which I think is fabulous. Although having just done this, it's actually harder to register the horse for boarding than it is a student. I'm of course talking about Stonna, where we're joined by Matt Way, the head, and parent Faye Calla, and she's relocated from California. Matt at Stonna, over to you.
William, thank you, and good morning to everyone. Yes, I'm Matt Way, I'm the head at Stonna. Now, Stonna, we've moved slightly further south onto the southern edge of the Cotswolds, and Stonna is a 2 to 18 day-end boarding school of about 400 pupils, just about 7 miles to the east of Bath. We're quite close to Chippenham train station, so should you have to return to London periodically, then it's just over an hour on the train from Chippenham to London. And yes, thank you. We are the UK's leading equestrian school with some 65 stables and about 40 horses of our own. And many of the pupils bring horses with them and ponies from around the world and the UK. But about half the pupils in the senior school ride, therefore half don't. I've never been on a horse in my life, much to everyone's amusement, and I'm learning the lingo. My friends bought me a pair of jodhpurs when I got the role here a couple of years ago, yet to be used. But I saw there's a charity event around the corner in which I will no doubt be put on a horse or a pony at some point. Now, I'd just like to introduce Faye Calla. Faye, as William said, moved from California a year or two ago. I think we started pretty much the same time, didn't we, Faye? But we met before that. And she has 2 daughters in the school, in the prep school. So Faye, just tell us a little bit about your journey. Firstly, you're from the Southeast originally, I think, and then had 5 or 6 years in California, but your journey in terms of just finding a place to live in this area and finding a school.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for having me. So yes, I have 2 girls at Stonna, year 5 and year 3, and we've been at Stonna for 18 months, originally from the Wokingham, Reading area. And then we moved to California, where we were for 6 years due to my husband's role. And then he was offered a job back in the UK, so we decided to move. And he's based in Chippenham. And although his job didn't require us to be based in Chippenham, we could have been anywhere. So, but we've always loved the Bath area, so we wanted to have a look at the schools around here. And so I actually went onto a Bath Mums Facebook group and asked which were the recommended schools in the area, and Stonna was one of them. So we actually had about a week in the UK where we had to look around all the schools, a new house, and then go back with a chosen school and an offer on a house. So it was quite a stressful week.
I remember it well, Faye. I remember you coming to visit and say you've got 6 days to find a house and find a school, and it was a bit of a whirlwind. And I remember you going around different places. And of course, there are many good schools in the Cotswolds. We're in a different part of the Cotswolds from the sort of schools perhaps we've heard from so far. Many good schools in and around Bath as well. And I often talk about sort of what I call independent school bingo. It's a bit like a Boris speech. You can tick off the various catchphrases that schools use in prospectuses and websites. And I often say it's about finding the right school, not a good versus bad school. So what was, having looked at different schools in the area, what sort of led you to Stonna? What did you feel was different for you about it?
Well, we had the children along with us as well, because it was very important that they were included in the process. Having been in their school in California, and moving to a school in the UK with a completely different curriculum, they were very worried, understandably. So we made sure they were with us. And some of the schools that we went to see, beautiful grounds, very old historic buildings, some of them quite institutionalized, very large and a little bit daunting for the children. But as soon as we came to Stonor, we come down this beautiful country lane, and we're surrounded by fields, and there's sheep and the horses, and then into these open grounds and this beautiful stone house, and we're just blown away already. And then we were greeted by Matt and Sarah, who were both immediately so warm and spoke to us about the school and asking the children lots of questions, and immediately they just felt at ease, and then they started asking lots of questions, so I could tell that they were already totally engaged. And we did the tour of the school, and just looking at all of the sports facilities, and you know, looking around the forest school, and then we went obviously to the equestrian, and both of my children a lot of door riding anyway, and so as soon as they saw all of these horses, they were just blown away, and that literally just sold it for them there and then. And I mean, even though we did go and have a little meeting afterwards and say, okay, right, which school did you like best? We knew straight away which they were going to say, and we were on the same page, so it was a done deal for us. But yeah.
So it had nothing to do with the two horse toys we gave the children.
Yeah, we still have those.
But you know, we do talk about Stonor having a kind of unique charm. I think it's a school where children do retain a sort of innocent enthusiasm, I think, and ultimately, I think a lot of riding families, their jeans and jumper kids are outdoorsy. They work hard and resilient, and they're good at, you know, sort of working for the longer term goal, and often do very well in school. But it does inform the culture of the school. And we talk about being a kind and family orientated school. What's your actual experience having chosen the school been like, not just in terms of atmosphere, but also perhaps more in terms of the academic offer as well?
Well, I mean, the key things that we were looking for was, one, academics, because obviously with the big difference between US teaching and the UK, the speciality subjects that you have, so the Spanish program that you run, a good few lessons a week, the kids absolutely adore Spanish, and obviously because living in California, they did quite a bit of Spanish, so that was great that they could pick up where they left off. And they also do speech and drama, which they love. One of my daughters is very into performing arts, so this was great for her. My eldest has singing lessons, my youngest has piano lessons, and this is all in addition to the core curriculum. So they have an extremely busy week doing these different subjects, but also sports, because California was so big on outdoor sports. This, again, we wanted to make sure that they continue what they'd learned. So doing hockey, cricket, netball, which they love. And swimming was a big thing for them because they were in the swim team. We wanted them to carry that on. So now they're in the swim squad at Stonor. So they swim after school as well as during school. And then horse riding, obviously, they get to do that within school time, which is fabulous for them. My daughters, both of them, their favourite subject is IPC, the International Primary Curriculum, where they have a different topic each term. And my eldest is doing space at the moment, where they've been doing a 3D space project. And I think you've had astronaut visit the school, which has been, that I've been hearing all about at home. And then my youngest is doing chocolate, which she finds fabulous, that she's been able to make chocolate and do tasting tests and where it comes from. And so IPC is a great subject for them. But then lastly, the teachers, they have been so nurturing, because the children were so worried about not only moving country, because they don't really remember living in the UK very much when they were young. So they were really, really scared on their first day, but the warmth and friendliness of the teachers, how they really nurtured them and want them to perform to the best of their ability, has been amazing. And the head commendations and the personal goal awards are great, because every week they are really pushing themselves, because I'm sure a lot of parents have heard of Roblox, and my kids, if they get a personal goal award, they get to have some Roblox bucks that they get to spend on their games. So that's their incentive. But yeah, it's been wonderful.
Thank you, Faye. So just to conclude, a couple of things to pick up on. We are part of despite being a sort of traditional British school in rural Wiltshire, we are part of an international group of schools with its heart in Spain. So that the prep school children have Spanish lessons virtually every day. So by the time they're coming out of the prep school, they're very proficient already. And hence also the international primary curriculum, which is innovative and pioneering in its nature. And of course, chocolate is particularly, undoubtedly a popular topic for them to study.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that, just to finish, is that Stonor is very much a greenhouse, not a hothouse. We like to within our atmosphere of a contented school, nurture our pupils, and therefore I think that academic results for their ability are very strong. And in terms of selection, yes, in part academically, but we prefer a very individual assessment journey rather than necessarily a process, and we are selecting as much on character and contribution to make sure that people fit our very unique charm. So that's it. Thank you, William. Thank you for your time.
Matt, thank you, and Faye, thank you so much. Great to hear more feedback about the schools that we're looking at, and particularly Stonor with that rather interesting animal angle on the horse front. Thank you very much indeed. So we're going to move swiftly on as ever. I'm being very generous and letting everyone talk for as long as they want. And our final school, after which we're going to Knight Frank. Our final school is Royal High School, Bath, and our speaker is Head Kate Reynolds. And Kate will be talking to two parents, namely Jane Padwick, who recently sold her house through Knight Frank, as it happens in Bath, relocating from the southeast of London, and Mrs. Lou Scott, who's relocated to Bath, having previously been in Dubai and Texas. We're getting very global now. So lovely to have you all here. Kate at Royal High School, Bath, over to you.
Thank you, William. And it's been lovely listening to such a variety of schools as well. We really are spoiled in the Cotswolds for choice. I will just say that our second parent, Lou Scott, has had to go because she's got a meeting that backs straight onto this, but Jane will be able to cover everything I'm sure that Lou wanted to say as well in due course. So welcome to the World Heritage City of Bath and Royal High School. We are slightly different from the other schools that have been speaking, in the sense that we are an all-girls school, all-girls day and boarding school. And we start at nursery and we go all the way through up to the sixth form. We're very fortunate to be on two different sites. And so the journey for the girls changes as they grow older. They'll move up to the senior school site for year 7. And then again, it changes when they go into the sixth form, because they've got the choice between either A levels or the world-renowned International Baccalaureate. We're part of the Girls' Day School Trust, the GDST, that I know will be familiar to a lot of parents in London. 25 schools. We collaborate closely together in providing a pioneering education for girls. And we put girls first in everything that we do. So that's going to be very much part of the theme that Jane will be leading on as well. Where are we? We're in the north of Bath. I'm looking out the window now. You go down the drive and turn left, down the hill into the beautiful cultural city of Bath, the World Heritage Site, and of course our two leading universities. Down the drive and turn right, and we're up to the Cotswolds Way. So we're sort of perfectly placed between town and countryside. What is our focus here at the Royal High School Bath then? Very simply, it's to know each and every girl at the school so that they can flourish. There's no one type of Royal High School girl. They are very diverse in character, and it really plays to their passions and their interests. And the girls here come from all walks of life, including a significant number who have bursaries. And we're also very culturally diverse. And a lot of that is thanks to our boarding school. We've got about 120 boarders, and the international boarders currently come from 17 different countries. It's very strong academically in the sense that the girls A-level 54% A's and A stars over the last 3 years. IB, the average has been 37. and at GCSE 53% of the top grades. But that's because the girls love learning. It's no sense of hot housing here. They come here, they feed off each other, and also the dedication that the teachers give them, going the extra mile, both to challenge them and to support them. And behind that, and really almost more important, is the exemplary pastoral support at the Royal High School, Bath. It is a journey for the girls that are here. There will be bumpy patches, and it's working very closely as a school with the parents so that we both support the girls, but also have very clear parameters for them. So we put girls first in every way that we can. What does that mean? Primarily, we're looking at how girls learn, understanding about the importance for them to be comfortable and confident in the classroom, but also the importance of that 21st century skill set for girls in particular, having their voice heard, being effective communicators, being critical thinkers, really questioning what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and being creative problem solvers, all those skills you need beyond school. Good example of that this week was the prefect team saying, well, what can we do as we come out of pandemic to help? And I said, well, it's school, it's you lead. What do you think you can do? So they've asked to get in touch with the local primary schools after their exams or not exams are over to see how they can help. So beyond all of this and what we're doing in the school are the values behind it, which really matter to us. To be forward thinking, to make sure that our girls are absolutely fearless, not afraid to fail, not afraid to take risks and to challenge ideas, and to realise the value of family, both their own family, the school family, but also the community in Bath and beyond. And with that in mind, we've got partnerships with schools in Kenya, Cambodia, America, and Australia. All of that being wrapped up with the core value of kindness, making sure that every girl, every member of staff here treats others as they would want to be treated. So that's the Royal High School in a nutshell. Now I'm going to pass over to Jane, a parent of several girls here, to tell you about her journey moving from London to Bath. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Kate. Hello, everybody. Getting used to talking to a screen these days. If I don't cover things that you'd like me to cover, Kate, just jump in with a question. So I moved to Bath over 10 years ago. My children seem to be older than the rest of the parents on this forum. So I have a 19-year-old who left school last summer, a daughter who's just about to turn 18. So she's in old school, upper sixth, year 13, and I have twins who are in year 8. Now, obviously, when we moved to Bath, they were considerably younger than this, and the kind of things we were looking for back then are very different from the kind of things that have become important to us as the years have gone on. We were very much a city family, and hand on heart, if we hadn't have had 4 children, we may have stayed in London. We absolutely loved it. We were very happy there. We were making the most of everything that London had to offer. We lived in Balham. Seems to be a bit of a southwest theme to this group. I wonder if it's a natural migration to the West Country. So we loved having ready access to the theatres, the cinemas, the top restaurants, the beautiful parks, the walks, the Costas, the ridiculous internet cafes that were just popping up at that time. We loved all of that. We loved the vibe. We loved the funky city thing. And we were really concerned leaving London that we wouldn't be able to find that somewhere else. So we came to Bath and thought, wow, this pretty much ticks the boxes because there is no compromise on the city vibe. We were a little bit concerned that it may feel small town and parochial. That hasn't been the case at all. And one of the things that Kate's just touched on about the boarding community and in fact the wider community in Bath is that it is a diverse city, maybe not necessarily as meets the eye as you first arrive, but there are amazing pockets of lots of different people from lots of different places, and it really adds to the vibrancy of the city. And of course the university has a large part to play in that too. The restaurants are fabulous. If you live anywhere within the city boundaries in Bath, as we do, we live very close to the Royal High School. Our children can walk into town in under half an hour. It gives them an incredible amount of freedom that their peers in London haven't been able to enjoy in such a safe way. So I think that one of the things I've really noticed in comparison with a lot of my friends who remained in London is that my children have definitely remained younger for longer, but without the compromises of all the things that the teenagers want to do. They can meet their friends in town, they can walk and have a hot chocolate or some disgusting bubblegum flavored milkshake. All of that's available, and it's safe, and you feel like it's a nice measured way to transition from childhood to teenagerdom and then on to young adulthood. The transport links obviously speak for themselves. We're a stone's throw from Bristol Airport. You can get to Bristol Airport within 40 minutes through country lanes, no traffic jams. You can get to London in just over an hour. My husband has always worked in London and continues to do so, and elsewhere. There are people that commute daily. I think that's a fairly difficult lifestyle choice to make, but you can certainly do it 2 or 3 times a week, and it's absolutely no problem at all. Or longer. I mean, my husband very often is there all week, and we've made that work. So I think they're all the reasons we moved to Bath. And then after that, obviously, was the discussion around what we should do about schools. Now, I have 4 daughters, and we were very concerned to choose co-ed. We absolutely didn't want single-sex education because I didn't want the imbalance to be all female crazy in our home with no male influences. Well, those plans were scuppered. We came to Bath, we looked around a number of schools, and we looked at the Royal High, and I slightly reluctantly looked because I knew it wasn't really what we were looking for, and we just thought it was too compelling to walk away. Now, that was obviously when the children were little, and a lot of what's been said about country life applies to Bath, and particularly the Royal High Prep School. It's a beautiful old country home with beautiful grounds in the middle of what feels like the countryside. It is, in fact, 1.5 miles from the city centre, but that's the beauty of Bath. But actually, as the children have gone through the school, and this was one of the things that we particularly liked, there is the continuity, and there isn't that pressure at 11 plus or 13 plus to have to gear up for these horrendously stressful and very competitive exams that get them through to the next stage. They join in nursery, and assuming nothing catastrophic happens, they can go all the way through to 18. One of the things I did want to touch on that Kate mentioned is that the Royal High School at sixth form offers 2 pathways. Now, when I was looking at the senior school, because we did look again at senior school and we definitely made a positive choice to stay, I didn't think this would be much of a consideration. It's really interesting that as parents of young children, you're almost on go slow, and then they hit 11 years of age and they go into senior school, and the world just flashes before your eyes, and before you know it, they're choosing their GCSEs, and then in the flash of an eye, they're choosing their A-levels. And so when they entered senior school, the IB pathway wasn't particularly on my radar. Both of my older 2 children did the IB, and what a wonderful qualification that turned out to be. It's fit for the 21st century. It produces critical thinking, very feisty girls that question everything about them. As Kate says, the 21st century isn't about regurgitating information and being able to process. It's about creative thinking. It's about analysis. It's about being able to think in ways that are going to make you look, add that human quality to the working environment. And the IB perfectly prepares you for that. Now, it isn't for everyone. My 2 older girls were both kind of all-rounders and would have found it very difficult to narrow their choices down to 3. And actually, as a result, the pathways that have been open to them have led them on a journey in those very turbulent years where they're coming to terms with who they are and what choices they want to make. They've had the choice. They've had six pathways to university using their IB subjects. That actually has meant both of them are now basically doing degrees or applying for degrees that, had they chosen A-levels, they wouldn't have been able to do, because their preferences, there's such a time of rapid development, that their preferences have been honed down, and now they feel really secure in their choices. My younger 2, the twins, are very likely to do A-levels because they'll be very happy to shed a couple of the subjects that they're not particularly engaged with, but that's fine. And the best thing about the Royal High is at that critical stage in their life, they can choose one or other and there's no compromise. Two more very brief points, because I know we're short on time. The boarding and day integration at the Royal High. Kate said there's 120 boarders in it. I think there may be a fifth or a quarter of the school population. It's a relatively small cohort, are fully integrated, and my children are all day students, and all of my children have got best friends who are in the boarding houses. And I love the fact that that brings with them social diversity that they wouldn't otherwise get. So they've ended up with best friends who are Spanish, best friends who are Nigerian, best friends who come from South America. All of this has it just adds a richness to their experience as they're growing up. And the two charities that we support, my two children have both had direct contact with as well. So the trip to Cambodia that runs every other year is a phenomenally formative experience for 17-year-olds. You know, lying in hammocks underneath a school in Cambodia, teaching children who, you know, may not otherwise have had an experience of education at all. These things, it's just, if I had to sum everything up in one go, I would say that the best thing about Bath and the best thing about the Royal High is that there's country and city, small, large, national and international, all in a perfect package with no compromise. So there you go. That's my take on things.
Jane, thank you so much, and indeed, Kate, thank you as well. Well done, everybody. We kept pretty good time. I was very generous, and obviously everyone's had a good chance to speak. I'm glad not to have to cut anyone short, but it does mean that we've kept partner and office head of Knight Frank Bath, Charlie Taylor, waiting a terribly long time to talk about the crucial part. Once you've dealt with the rather more complex bit, perhaps, of the schools, is where are you going to live? So, Charlie, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you, Will. I hope you can all hear me okay. I've just shared my screen. Can you see my slide?
Yeah, we can, Charlie.
Fantastic. Just a bit of background about me. I've just started my 25th year with Knight Frank. I cut my teeth in central London, was lucky enough to do apartment sales and house sales in Chelsea and Pimlico, and then moved out to Winchester about well, it was after about a year with Knight Frank. Spent 12 years in Winchester, and then was lucky enough to be given the gig in Bath 12 years ago. And like Jane said, I mean, you know, just never look back. I mean, it's the most incredible place. Absolutely love it. And I have two children, one of 21 and one of 17, which is, you know, they've absolutely loved sort of being brought up in Bath and spending time here. In terms of today, I'm just going to, let me just see if I can get these slides. Won't move on to the next one. How do I? Sorry, a bit of a technophobe. Oh, is that gone? Can you see my slide okay?
I can certainly see it, Charlie, so I'm assuming everyone else can.
Oh, there we go. Right, it's moving now. Fine, fantastic. So just an overview for today. I'm just going to briefly talk about the area. I think we've already done that quite well already. Obviously, the market, which is forever changing, and probably the most important, why Knight Frank, what we can do to help you if you're thinking of moving into the area. And then finally, just some useful publications, which is good. So the Cotswolds is made up of about 800 square miles. It's a large area. We're about 2 hours by car from London. And as we've heard earlier, you know, in terms of communications, and actually I think it's a big change, certainly for us in Bath, the train service has come down by about 15 minutes in the last 12 months. So from Bath Spa, we're an hour and 15 minutes to London Paddington, and Chippenham just over, well, I think it's now about an hour. So I think that's been a real game changer for the area. But also I think people's perceptions of the Cotswolds are often this beautiful green space with honeycomb coloured cottages and villages, which it absolutely is. But actually, we offer a complete range, as Jane said, of urban and country destinations. And actually, you'll see from the 6 offices that we have that covers the Cotswolds, myself in Bath, Cheltenham and Oxford all have pretty major urban markets. And whilst it's not strictly the Cotswolds, it does give that choice for people, to do either, which is fantastic. And actually in Bath here, it equates to just over half of all my sales is within the city centre. In terms of today, I hope you can see this slide okay. We have great synergy with the 5 schools mentioned, obviously in Bath, the Royal High and Stonor. And then we have a Stowe office covering Kitebrook and Kingham. And then obviously with Dean Close School with Cheltenham as well. So there's certainly a good synergy for anyone looking to move into the area. In terms of the market, it's been an extraordinary few months. I mean, I look back exactly this time last year, I was sat at my desk having to rebudget, cutting costs down, ready to face Armageddon, and just no one foresaw what was going to happen. And within almost 6 weeks of this date, I was screaming at my bosses at Knight Frank to get my staff back from furlough because we just couldn't cope with demand. And that continued through the whole year. What that has done, and in terms of a sort of current market update, is we're now very short of stock. It is a challenge, and certainly the country market for the first time in my 12 years in Bath outstripped the town market. But as the year went on last year, the town market's come back in and is now extremely busy. So our challenge going forward is stock. We're desperately trying to get people to sell. We were hoping with schools going back, things may improve, but I think it will be a challenge going forward, just because so much has sold, which is good. Why Knight Frank? How can we help you? Well, Knight Frank is a private partnership. It's full of people that have been in the firm for a long time, like myself. So we have unrivaled local knowledge. The Cotswolds is the absolute. It's been part of our DNA for many years, and it obviously suits our brand with beautiful houses and apartments in Bath. So we like to think our knowledge is unrivaled, which is good. We've got actually 6 offices covering the Cotswolds, but more importantly, for those wanting to move to the area, we want to provide a personalized service. So it's really important that people are talking to us. And my one message today is that if you're online and looking to move into the area, then please make contact with us. The internet is fantastic. It's great for surfing after dinner and so on at home. But the honest truth at the moment, the market is so short of stock. By the time it gets onto the internet, it's probably too late. So we want to be talking to you early. We want to be offering a one-stop shop where we get involved with your potential sale if you're moving into the area. I thought it was fascinating earlier listening to everyone, but actually everyone moved into the area. We're incredibly lucky that we do attract people from just all sorts, all over the world. Dubai, as we heard, and obviously London and further afield. So we want to be talking to you. We have a number of services available, things like we have the buying solution that you can pay for a service that people will look for you. I think they play a big part. Knight Frank Finance, so we can organize your finance. They're now one of the market leaders, and if they're involved, it gives us fantastic transparency. It's just like, if you're selling through Knight Frank in London or the home counties or wherever it is, we get that transparency, and that can be the difference between a sale and no sale at the moment. So it really is, we want that personalized service. We want to be talking to you early, possibly even before you've even thought about doing it, and you know, to establish a really good relationship with you so that we can look after you. We're a trusted brand with a unrivaled track record. Every office produces its own track record, which you can download and get a copy of. And as I said earlier, we're a one-stop shop. In terms of publications, we have a number of publications available for you. We have a Cotswolds Spotlight, which is obviously very apt for today. It's a link. It can be, you know, accessed on your iPad. We can get that to you, and I'd urge anyone that wants that, make contact with me and we'll get the link to you. We've got the Country View magazine, which highlights some of our finest houses across the UK. And then, as I said earlier, we've got Knight Frank Finance and the Buying Solution. They've all got their own publications that we can get to you. The main thing is we're here, we want to help and we want to speak to you. So, you know, I would urge you to make contact with us. Please, you know, I can be contacted on charlie.taylor@knightfrank.com and point you in the right direction. And I know I'm going to stay on now for questions and answers. So if anyone's got any questions, I'd be delighted to help. But thank you again, and yeah, look forward to speaking to you.
Charlie, thank you very, very much indeed. And as Charlie points out, we're now going to just have a quick Q&A. So there is a Q&A icon on the bottom of your Zoom window, everybody. And if you click on that, you can tap in a question. We're not going to have a huge amount of time. I'm afraid we've answered a lot, but I've also seen a lot of the schools directly answering your questions in that box as well in text. So please keep those coming. We'll start with a question kind of where we left off with Charlie, I suppose. It's quite a tricky one, Charlie, but I'm sure you can handle it. So we can't decide whether to purchase a second property in London. At the moment, we're both working from home, but expect to be in the office at least 3 days a week. Is daily commuting to London practicable? Presumably from the Cotswolds.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It is, and as Jane said earlier, people do it, but I probably wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, I worked, you know, I think one of the advantages of the area actually is once you're here, you generally feel away from it all. You know, having worked in Winchester for 12 years, that was a commuter city. You know, people did go into London daily. Actually, for me, the advantage of Bath and the Cotswolds is actually, you know, you get away from it all, and yet you know, an hour and 15 minutes and you can't get into Paddington. So it is possible. Personally, I think we tick the boxes perfectly for those that want to work from home 2 or 3 days a week and go into town for a couple of days, maybe, you know, 1 or 2 days a week. But it is possible daily, depending obviously where you work in London. I have a great friend that commutes into Baker Street every day from Bath, so you know that's near Paddington, so it is doable.
Thank you so much, Charlie. That's wonderful. Do keep some questions coming, everybody. Lots of these questions are quite specific, so I'm not sure I'm going to use all of them. See if I can find a slightly more general one. Sort of, Charlie, this is another one for you, actually. So we're interested in areas on the fringes of the Cotswolds, especially Wiltshire, Worcestershire and Somerset. Am I correct that these areas offer better value?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you will get more for your money, and you're absolutely right. Whilst we've got 6 offices covering the Cotswolds, there are, you know, we have an office in Worcester, which covers the sort of peripheries, also Bristol and Hungerford as well. So, you know, clearly the further you go out, yes, the more you can get for your money. And, you know, I would say there's quite a disparity. You know, if you, even with Bath, I mean, you know, you can go to the edges of Bath and get more for your money, rather than coming into town where it tends to be more expensive. So the country has, I think one of the reasons why we've seen such an uplift in the market is it has offered, it's been good value for money, and I think still remains so. So definitely, I think by going to that, you will get more for your money.
Great, thank you, Charlie. Just a little schools input now, and I think I'm going to ask Susan at Kitebrook for an answer on this one. The question is, my partner is Italian and he worries that small village life will be less welcoming and diverse than he finds in London. Is he right to worry? Obviously, I'm asking you not only as the head of the community at Kitebrook, but also as a resident. Is he right to worry, Susan?
Never worry about anything, we say at Kitebrook. When you can look out of my beautiful office and see the children playing outside, you realize really what it is that life you should be embracing in life. So I say no first, don't worry about anything. Second to that, no, we have a very strong community feel, and I think we offer the same kinds of things. I can't compete with the Starbucks coffee, I think somebody mentioned earlier in Bath, and but certainly we have our own here, as I think Nick said, Dalesford just around the corner. So I think you can seek out your amenities. We have a big group of people that do the Soho farmhouse. We have teams that parents can join, and also just play dates with children. So I think you'd find plenty on our doorstep.
Susan, thank you so much. I am afraid I think we're going to call it a day there. We've run over a little bit, but I appreciate there might be lots more questions, but there's a Q&A box there. Please visit our website, schoolsshow.co.uk. You'll find details for everybody here, Charlie, plus all the heads, and the school's information, their prospectuses. The main thing I want to leave you with, as I always do with these Into webinars, is get in touch with us, get in touch with the schools, start the conversations. I think a lot of parents, get a bit overwhelmed, and they just, they don't think the schools are that accessible, but they really are. And if you're going to compare, hopefully no London heads are watching, but if you're going to compare the sort of communication you get with a London school versus one of these wonderful schools in the countryside, you're going to find them to be far more responsive. So if you are in London and you're used not to getting much feedback, don't let that put you off. You will do when you're contacting these schools, and they'll be more than happy to explain what the relocation might be like to you, just as their wonderful parents have done with us today. So it just leaves me to thank Charlie at Knight Frank, Susan at Kitebrook, Emma at Dean Close, Nick at Kingham Hill, Matt at Stonor, and Kate at Royal High School Bath, and indeed all of your parents who so kindly contributed to today, giving their valuable insights on their relocation. Wonderful having you all, and you can join us again if this has sort of really lit the fire under the relocation. Our next Into seminar is is on the Wednesday, the 24th of March at 10:30 again, and we're going to be joined by financial experts at Brewin and Dolphin. The title is Move or Stay Put, the Financial Implications, and our friends at Brewin and Dolphin will be modelling 3 scenarios to give a financial insight into how property and location choices made now might look in 10 years' time or so. So that'll be really, really interesting. You can register for that online as ever. This entire thing will be up on our website later today. Once again, thank you for everyone on the panel. Thank you for everyone watching, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon. Goodbye.